Hey guys, it's Jill. It's Thursday night. Mayday, Mayday. Yep, that's about fitting for today. Um I wanted to come on and talk about some things that have been going on lately and a reason why I'm hosting these classes that I am over the next couple of weeks because I'm just concerned with where we're headed. Last week I was at the park and I was walking around with my shoes off, and a gentleman said to me, he said, Jill, well, he said, hey, he said, I don't see too many people walking around with their shoes off. And I said, yeah, me neither. And we had a very open conversation about our connection to the earth and the things in which we consume. And he said to me, when I told him of my grief and my devastation with the things that are moving around us lately, and he said, there really isn't a lot of spiritual connection lately. And it's unfortunate because we've lost that wisdom. And I probably should have hugged him because I don't have conversations like that very often with people who are really aware of spirit and our connection and how we move through the world. And a lot of the reason for that is that the things that we're consuming, not just in the news media, which is atrocious, and the things that we're singing about, right, in our music, but a lot of it is that our foods are just poison. They're just poison. And I saw today, I was at the grocery store and they had, normally where they had like the cake cups and the angel food cakes with the strawberries. The cake cups are now made by Tasty Cakes. And I didn't look at the ingredients because I just knew that's not something I would feed my family. So a couple months ago, I bought some plastic pickles. And I got them home and I realized that the label was funny. And I was like, oh man, all right. And I had grabbed like a 0 sugar. And so I just dumped them out and I threw them away because we don't eat toxic chemicals, or at least not if I can, get around it. So today I went to the grocery store and I really wanted bread and butter pickles. And I've been eating these bread and butter pickles since I was a little kid. Like, they're one of my favorite things, especially when the weather is nice. So tonight I opened the pickles and my daughter and I were having dinner, and sure enough I was like, man, these are like spicy or weird. This isn't the pickles that I know, right? And everything is changing. Everything that we're eating now is chemicals. But what really made me mad was that I had checked the label, like at least the front of it, before I bought them to make sure that they were like, original recipe, whatever. And there was no marking on this jar to say, hey, these are going to have chemicals in them. But sure enough, when I looked at the label, sucralose is listed right in there as an ingredient. Okay, and the problem that I have with sucralose, this invert sugar, where they invert a molecule of actual sugar so your body doesn't identify it, is that your body can't identify it. So not only does it not identify it as sugar, but it doesn't identify it at all, which means your body's not taking any cues from it, okay? And we know that it's disruptive to the microbiome, to all your gut bacteria. And the scariest thing about that is that your gut bacteria is directly related to your mental processes. We know that if we don't have healthy flora and we're not eating foods that are alive or foods that trigger a system response, that then we get things like inflammation, we get things like overstimulation, we get kidney and liver dysfunction. Did you know that sucralose is contraindicated, which means you're not supposed to feed it to kids under the age of 1, under 12 months? So if we're not supposed to feed it to our kids, why are we eating it? And especially if you're pregnant, please don't eat that. Okay, please don't eat that. There's this sad reality that like 80% of the diseases that humans are moving through right now are preventable. And most of that is through diet, exercise, mentality, right? However, our food supply is atrocious. And the scariest, most scary thing about that is that even if you're buying produce, um, you know, whether it's fruits, vegetables, anything that we're getting right now is still far removed from the natural makeup of that food because we have genetically modified everything. Monsanto has genetically modified all of the seeds, and then they forced, and this is like since like the 1930s, they've been forcing the farmers to buy those seeds. So everything that we're getting now doesn't contain the original genetic makeup that it did when it came from the earth. And those genetic sequences were to repair and heal our human bodies. So when our bodies can't identify the genetic makeup of these things that we're consuming, even the healthy things, the grown in the sun, grown in the dirt things, then we're not healing the body because our body, it can't intertwine those things. I was talking on the internet last week about someone, and we were having the autism debate, and they jumped on me and they were like, you talk about these chakras and energies and epigenetics and, it's baloney. And I kind of went, well, maybe. Okay, but here's the thing. These energy systems and these food systems that we've moved through for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, a million years, is it 37 million years maybe? That my friend there, Stephen Hawking's. I think I'm gonna have to look that up now. I'll post it actually if I'm wrong. But okay, we have been feeding ourselves and sustaining ourselves from the earth for this long. But over the past 200 years, we've moved into medicalization. We've moved into poisonous chemicals, especially in our food. And we've really shifted the health of our society. And we were talking about how if we keep de-evolving, right, and genetically manipulating ourselves, could we be our own worst enemy? Could we actually be extinct, or could we cripple ourselves to a point where we would become extinct because we just wouldn't be able to continue procreating? Are we going to wake up before that point? Or how bad is it going to have to get before we do that? The Vedas, which are the ancient Hindu texts, which is where a lot of, the holistic medicine comes from, and a lot of it comes from the Greeks too, and the Hermetica. I'm not gonna go too deep right now, but again, this is why I'm hosting these classes on like the Ayurveda and the conscious parenting, because we're so far removed, you guys, from where we should be as humans in our humanity, and it's why everything is so unbalanced and so unhealthy right now. The Vedas predate the Bible by 2,000 years. 2,000? Maybe 3,000. I think it's almost 3,000 actually. They predate the Bible by 3,000 years. And what was before that? Religion has given us a lot of control, but it's also given us a lot of false beliefs. It's given us a lot of division, and it's certainly been weaponized on multiple fronts and on multiple occasions. It's a hard thing to say, but at some point I think we're going to have to actually transcend religion to be able to fully come back and understand our humanity. Because the things that we're doing right now, not just the things that we're consuming, but the things that we're doing as a global collective, like what's going on in the Sudan and what's going on in Gaza and what's going on still in Afghanistan and Iraq, like none of these things are okay. And how aware are we as an individual of all of those things, plus all of the things that we're consuming, plus getting through our day to day? It is a lot. It is a lot. And it is why we are so easily manipulated by government and by these systems that are moving around us, because a lot of us don't have the mental capacity to hold all of those things right now. So it's almost like ignorance is bliss, because if I don't know, I don't have to think about it, right? But that's hard. So a lot of mindfulness and a lot of meditation and breathing exercises are designed for us to make space, mental space, emotional space, to be able to hold more of these things. Because when we can better understand all of the things that are moving around us and how far removed we are from some of those things, and the impact that we can have individually on these things that are moving in the world, then we can start to make those shifts. And again, it can ripple out and we can start to affect change, whether it's here in our town or in our state or in our nation or on a global level. But it's going to have to happen, you guys, because things need to shift. They need to shift. And I've been shown that so much recently. I suppose that working for myself is really kind of where I'm at right now, because I can't move back into false systems. Like, I've thought about it, and I've actually been pushed that way many times, because I am applying for menial jobs, and these women are interviewing me, and they're looking at me going, we're not going to hire you for housekeeping. We know you want a paycheck, but we're not going to hire you for minimum wage because you have a degree. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm overqualified to mop the floors? Because I promise you I'll do a good job mopping the floors, because I've done the note taking and I've done the explaining and I've played by the false government rules, and it's not working. And I've spoken on this before, like the arbitrary alliance that said, well, you can't put a daycare there because we say you don't need one. Our whole county is in a daycare crisis, and we were told we couldn't open a daycare in the middle of town. Friends, you gotta start coming with me. We gotta start transcending this nonsense. We have to start affecting change, from the little things that we're ingesting to the things that we're creating to the moves that we're making to the paychecks that we are collecting, because I cannot have one more person who works in those systems look at me and go, I know you're right, but what can I do? I have walked through hell for the past 6 years to learn to take myself outside of these systems, to say there has to be another way, and there is, and it's simple. It's so simple. But we're overlooking it because we're told that it's not okay, and that's why I was so mad about the health fair at the school last week, because we're just teaching these kids the wrong things. Because what is Herbalife? It's sucralose, and it's protein powders, and it's meal replacements, and we don't want our teens doing that. We don't. Kids need calories, first of all, okay? And I'm getting a little tangent here, and I am not sorry. Kids need calories. Kids need real foods. Kids do not need to be replacing meals unless it is under the supervision of a doctor or nutritionist, especially when you're looking at things like body dysmorphia, and we see that a lot in teens, and it is ever increasing, okay? I don't know, you guys. I say that a lot, but it is the reason that I have created these classes. It's the reason I'm being called to speak, and I know that. I made a post last week about how I don't think I'm able to back down from this, because I cannot just close my eyes and go back into these false systems. And it has been a long road to stand outside and to stand in my truth and to stand against false medicines, things that I don't think we need to be taking, especially when, we're handing women all of these antidepressants and all of these mind-altering drugs. Women weren't even included in studies for those drugs until 1993. 1993, you guys. But when did lithium come around? When did we stop institutionalizing women and calling them crazy? Well, I guess they never did stop calling us crazy, so here we are. It's time to shift, you guys. Please, please watch what you're eating. Please don't feed your kids toxic poisons. Things like tasty cakes, Little Debbie's, I loved them too when I was a kid. We can't be eating them anymore. They're just not healthy. They're just not safe, okay? Soda, I'm not even going to talk about soda. And you know that's another thing that I talk a lot about is being sovereign, making your own decisions. If you want to make those decisions and feed your family those things, it is always up to you. So is sticking a needle full of heroin in your arm. So is smoking weed. So is drinking. Set some boundaries. Understand when, maybe enough is enough or too much is too much. That again is a reason that I'm hosting these classes, because what does it mean to be sovereign? What does it mean to understand the things that we're ingesting and the impact that they're going to have on our physical vessel and our emotional vessel? I don't know, you guys, I'm ready for it, okay? So here we are. I love you, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be talking about it, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be pushing so hard against the systems. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night. See ya.